Hi last watchers, I don't have a review today, it's more of a quick look with some buying advice that you may or may not find helpful. Back in March of this year, I got a heads up that Swatch were launching their own version of the Omega MoonWatch. I wasn't alone. Sadly, or maybe fortuitously, I was out the country. In jest, I asked my wife if she could pop along to the Swatch shop in Edinburgh for a couple of hours and pick me up a mission to the moon, to which she agreed. Luckily for both of us, I didn't hold her to it. It was a fruitless task. The queue was massive, with hundreds of people snaking through the streets of Edinburgh city centre, all hoping to bag a double-branded plastic watch. The majority were unsuccessful, as the store had been supplied with an inadequate amount of stock, with rumours suggesting only 100 items waiting to be sold. The scenes in Edinburgh were played out worldwide at 110 Swatch stores, and whereas us Brits are famous for queuing in a sombre and jovial fashion, as recent events have proved, elsewhere things got a little out of hand, with queue jumping and riots in other locations. The launch was seen as a brilliant piece of marketing by Swatch, and an absolute disaster by the public, who went home empty-handed. In the Edinburgh queue that day was a friend of mine who we can call Mr. S. Mr. S is in the watch business and has contacts with some major brands, but like everyone else hoping to get a MonnSwatch, he had to queue. Geographically, Mr. S is based in the north of England, pretty much midway between the two UK Swatch shops, the other being in London. He drove 3 hours and joined the Edinburgh queue at 20 to 6 in the morning. He stood in line for 6 hours and didn't even get close to the store before they sold out. He ended up buying 3 watches on the street from some youths looking to make a quick profit: the Earth, the Sun and Mars. And to save his blushes, let's just say he paid over retail. Well, that was 6 months ago, and getting your hands on a MonnSwatch is still no easy task. Swatch reneged on their promise of making the non-limited watches available online, which means you still have to find your way to a Swatch store, and they are literally few and far between. Then you have to pray that they have stock, which they won't. Your only other option is to pay a scalper's premium on eBay. Actually, I take that back, as the availability of MonnSwatches seems to be steadily improving. For your reference, I live in the central belt of Scotland. My work occasionally takes me into the cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh. If I have any free time, then I spend it drooling over watches at various retailers. Since the MonnSwatch launch, I've got into the habit of popping into the Edinburgh Swatch store and asking for a mission to the moon. Over the passing months, I've become quite used to disappointment. Then a couple of weeks ago, something changed. I arrived at Swatch late in the day and witnessed the last 2 missions to the Sun being sold. The sales assistant informed me that there had been an increase in stock deliveries, something I decided to put to the test. It was on my train journey home that I had a chance conversation over Messenger with Mr. S, who told me about his MonnSwatch debacle. Rather than being put off by the whole ordeal, he has made it his mission, in a Pokemon fashion, to catch them all. He wants the full set of MonnSwatches. As I was primarily interested in the moon, and possibly Mercury for my daughter, I promised that if the store had any stock on my next visit that didn't include my preferred options, I would get whatever was on his list. Yes, Mr. S sent me a list in order of preference, starting with Neptune in the top spot. For those in the know, Neptune has been withdrawn from sale by Swatch, therefore making it highly desirable. They are currently trying to fix an issue with colour bleeding from the caseback that has left many wearers looking like overgrown smurfs. Early last Tuesday, I headed into Edinburgh and joined a queue of 5 people outside the Swatch store at 10 to 10 in the morning. The doors opened at 5 past. By that time there were 30 of us standing in line. The sales assistant had a freshly delivered open box of MonnSwatches and told me it was 1 watch per customer per week. Neptune, Mercury and Moon weren't available. It was Mr. S's lucky day. I left the store with a Jupiter. Everyone behind me got a watch. 2 days later, on the Thursday, I found myself back in Edinburgh for work. I used my lunch break to pay another visit to the Swatch store and entered with some trepidation, fearing I may be recognised. Luckily, I was served by a different sales assistant and I picked up a Saturn. I paid with the same credit card and there were no checks or red flags. Another MoonSwatch off Mr. S's list. I paid another lunchtime visit on the Friday and witnessed the sale of the last 2 Mission to the Moons. Gutted. And then I was back in the store on Saturday and Sunday to find they had no stock. Over the week I gathered the following information. MoonSwatch deliveries are on the up, which ties in with what Swatch Group are telling us. The bulk of their deliveries turn up Monday to Friday. The stores don't know what they're getting in the box. It's unlikely that they will get a delivery over the weekend, but if they do, more often it comes late on the Saturday, and they will hold off overnight and sell the stock on the Sunday. Obviously, this is only the Edinburgh store. I can only hope the other Swatch stores are getting similar deliveries. If they are, then you're pretty much guaranteed a MoonSwatch, provided you give yourself options and get to the store early doors Monday to Friday. You'll have to persevere for the more popular models. I'm still holding out for the Moon. When I picked up the Jupiter and Saturn, I noticed that on each occasion the sales assistant made a point of opening the box to check its contents. This might be because the watches are so light, weighing in at a little over 30 grams. A quick glance to make sure there's actually a watch in the box will save some embarrassment. More importantly, they lifted the plastic protector and appeared to inspect the crystal, which I've heard is prone to scratches inside the box. As I proceed, I should point out that Mr. S is happy for me to share his watches with you before I send them on their merry way. I will be extremely careful. So what does £207 get you? Well, your desired MoonSwatch will come in its own individually themed cardboard sleeve, printed with several facts about the planet, moon or star within. The inner cardboard box has a clamshell opening that reveals your watch secured on a cardboard cushion, if you can call it that. It's bookended with a MoonSwatch collection booklet with details of the 11 variants and a bunch of paperwork outlining its guarantee. It's all very cheap, but somewhat entertaining. Each MoonSwatch is based on the case dimensions of the original Omega Speedmaster MoonWatch Professional. I've not had one in hand to compare, but I can confirm that the watches I have here have a diameter of 42mm, a case thickness of 13.3mm, a lug-to-lug of 47.3mm and a lug width of 19.7mm, pretty much 20mm. The only difference being with their weight, as the Saturn is 30.7 grams compared to the 30.5 grams of the Pluto. This minor discrepancy is no doubt down to the differing straps, but as I'm not prepared to remove them and risk scratching the Bioseramic case of someone else's watch, then you'll have to live with the inner turmoil that may cause you. And what is Bioceramic? Well, up until the MoonSwatch release, the main use for bioceramics was to make artificial bone. Swatch may be using different ingredients, but their MoonSwatches should be as tough as your granddad's new hip. The asymmetric case is a 1-to-1 copy of the Speedmaster, complete with its notorious twisted lugs, crown and pusher layout. And Seiko should take note. The MoonSwatch crown has been signed not once, but twice with both the Omega and Swatch logos. The tachymeter scale bezel even has that .90 that will send purists wild with excitement. And unlike a cheap Chinese homage, there's a legitimate Omega branding above the X-Swatch logo on the tri-compact dial. The detail doesn't stop there, as it also carries the Speedmaster reference and the MoonSwatch designation. Look closely, and Swatch are hinting at the stratosphere by labelling the watch as Swiss made. Yes, it's only a quartz, but it's a Swiss quartz. Then if you have a really keen eye, you'll spot an almost invisible printed Swatch copyright text dated 2021, which begs the question of how long Swatch were sitting on these watches before their launch. And then a final touch to rival Rolex is the tiniest of Swatch S's engraved on that soft plastic crystal. Okay, that may be taking it too far, but there's a lot of detail here that needs to be appreciated. Each watch has its own theme and colourway, although by chance I've picked up 2 in the collection that have similar tones. The Jupiter case is a light brown warm putty with a black velcro strap which has Omega, Speedmaster and Swatch all clearly labelled. The chronograph seconds hand and top 2 subdial hands have a pop of colour, a bright orange. The rear of the watch sports a Jupiter battery cover. The case of the Saturn is a light grey, like fresh cement, has a contrasting brown bezel, brown subdials. The 6 o'clock dial has a rim of Saturn's rings and a brown velcro strap. If you like brown, then this is the watch for you. The chronograph hand and top 2 tickers are all green. Who chose this colour scheme? The rear of the watch has a Saturn battery cover. Both case backs are clearly labelled Swatch, Swiss made and water resistant to 30 metres. And there's 4 jewels in that quartz movement. All the MoonSwatches carry the same text around their perimeter. Dream big, fly higher, explore the universe, reach for the planets, enjoy the mission. And the last thing I should mention is that each MoonSwatch has a splash of superluminova, which I will put to the test in a future video. Here's a shot whilst you wait. And how do they wear? Well, the strap is very stiff and I don't want to break them in, so I very carefully put the Jupiter on wrist and it looks pretty decent. The dimensions are good on my 7-inch wrist and it's practically weightless. I would definitely be swapping out the strap for something more fitting and comfortable. Let me know what you think of the MoonSwatches, whether you're a lover or a hater. Personally, I'm quite smitten. I still plan on getting the mission to the moon. I see it as a guilt-free entry point to the Speedy, which will allow me to decide if I want to spend big bucks on the real deal. Those clever buggers at Swatch had me at hello. I'll get these watches packed up and shipped off to Mr. S before the end of the week. Mission MoonSwatch will continue. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Oh, and if anyone knows how I can get my hands on a MoonSwatch display suitcase, then please get in touch.